Lala showed up, fell off, plus I didn't. Okay. You know what? Before I die, I'm just gonna restart the level so that I technically don't fall off. If I restart the level before falling out of the world, it technically doesn't count as me falling off. No, you're still falling. You just didn't no, falling only counts as falling if you land. If you never land, then that's not falling, you know? That's the logic. You're not falling if you don't land. If you never land, in order to be considered as falling, you have to land at some point in time. If you don't ever land, that doesn't count as falling, you know? It doesn't count as falling. It does not count as falling. You know the debate of if water is wet? This is similar to that. Does it really count as falling if you never land, you know? If you never land, does it truly count as falling? Of course it doesn't, you know? Therefore, by simple logic, I never actually fell off. I never actually fell off, you know? I never fell off. Just because I'm losing my Y position, just because my Y position is going down, doesn't mean I'm falling, Lala. Jeez. You need to learn your English, bro. You gotta learn your English, man. You need to learn your English. Actual rage bait? What do you mean rage bait? What the fuck? Bro, everything that you disagree with is rage bait, Lala. Literally everything that you disagree with is just rage bait, man. Just because you disagree with it doesn't mean it's rage bait. Just because you're factually wrong doesn't mean it's rage bait, okay? Next, you'll say that the world is flat is rage bait. Okay, come on, bro. Bro, you're saying falling doesn't qualify as falling if someone... Exactly! Exactly! Like, for example, if you're in space, if you're floating through space, does that count as falling? You're never landing. Like, if you're floating through space, you're not falling, okay? Also, what direction is falling? Like, you know how Earth is round, right? Earth is round. So if you're falling upwards, or like... Listen, falling is actually very complex, you know? Falling is very complex, has a lot of nuance to it, okay? A lot of nuance to it. Falling only counts as falling if you land, okay? Like, if you're, like, floating through space, does that count as falling? Which direction do you have to be floating in to be counts as falling? Huh? Huh? No, because there's no gravity? So you're saying gravity has to be, like, a factor in this? What if you, like... What if you're getting sucked in by a black hole? A black hole objectively has gravity. So what happens if you're being sucked off by a black hole? Does that count as falling? I don't think so. Technically, everything has gravity too. Like, scientifically, everything emits some level of gravity. It's just somewhat less than others. So technically, you're falling in every single direction by your logic, you know? Gravity applies everywhere, you know? So objectively, you're wrong, Lala. Minnie, if someone orbits around, exactly, Minnie, exactly. Minnie is speaking fire right now. He's spitting facts. Like, this is the kind of argument we want to know. Does that count as falling if you're orbiting around a planet? Like, you're being affected by gravity and you're moving because of the gravity. Does that count as falling? Does a straw have 1 or 2 holes? Exact. Why is Lala calling me on Discord? Lala's actually he wants to debate me, I think. This man wants to debate me. Lala, just admit that you're wrong, okay? Like, you're acting a lot like pirate software, Lala. You're acting like a lot like pirate software. Like, you don't know how to admit when you're wrong. You know you're wrong, but you're not admitting it. Don't let your ego cloud your mind, man. Don't let the ego cloud your mind. You know you're wrong. Okay? You know you're wrong, bro. You know you're wrong. We know that gravity has nothing to do with falling. It has to do with your land. Okay, technically you can fall in space. It's matter if you hit some... Exactly, Minnie. It only counts as falling if you land. You're not falling if you don't land. Lala, you cannot dispute me. See, notice how Lala isn't making any good arguments right now? He's like, pick the fuck up, rage bait. Falling means moving from a higher level. Okay, what counts as a... Okay, sorry. That does sound standard. But what if you're in space? What direction is lower level then? Because Earth is round, right? Earth is round. What direction is lower? Is it towards our center of the Earth? What if you're on a different planet? That doesn't work because we don't know what the defined definition of lower level is. Lower level could mean anything. Are we taking Earth as the center? Are we like, because like life is not a game, you know, it's not flat. Earth isn't flat. We know that. Unless if you think the Earth is flat, that's a different story. But like, falling means from a higher level to a lower level, according to Google. That's just flying and floating, unless exactly, Minnie. Exactly, Minnie is speeding fast. If your Earth is constantly moving, if you stay at the same level relative to the Earth, you're not at the same level because you're moving through space. You're staying in the same spot relative to Earth, but you're not in the same level compared to the universe because Earth is constantly moving. Because you're talking about a Y level. Y level of what? Compared to Earth, compared to gravity, compared to space, like it doesn't work. Well, what if you're not on Earth? What if you're in space? What if you're in space or something? What if you're on the moon? Listen, your definition of falling is flawed, man. Your definition, it can be falling even with no, like I said, Lala's argument is just flawed. It's just flawed. What Pablo and Lala says contradicts each other too. Because Pablo says that no, that would be floating, but Lala said it can be falling, even with no gravity. So you're contradicting yourself. You guys have a very flawed definition of falling. Just say what you think what the definition of falling is, Lala. What do you think, what criteria do you think is needed for falling to count as falling? What criteria do you think are needed? I think that you need to land in order for it to be considered falling. You need to land. You need to land for it to be considered. If you don't land, that's not falling, you know. It's not falling if you don't land. You know, it's not falling. That's something else. That's floating, or I don't know. Going from a higher, what uncontrollably in reference to the human animal experience. I don't know, Lala. Does that mean going down an elevator counts as falling? That doesn't count as falling. You know, going down a ladder does not count as falling, because just because you're going down the Y level doesn't mean you're falling. That's not a good definition. If I walk down the staircase, does that count as falling? Uncontrollably is what I said. Well, what if you can fall controllably, you know? You can fall controllably. You can control your fall. Like if I tie a rope around me and like bungee jump off a cliff, that still counts as falling, you know? But I can technically control where I fall. Or if I like see the cliff, like an edge, and purposely jump off, that's controllably, you know? Let's just, Lala can't prove me wrong. That's why he just wants to compromise, because he can't prove me wrong. Because I want to go play your game. Go retreat like the coward you are. I know you can't debate this because you're wrong. Wow, first time on stream, I'm already lost brain cells listening to that conversation.